Students, this concept of domicile plays a vital role in the life of the person. It establishes the legal relationship between the state and the person. And also, here on the basis of the concept of domicile, the application of law where the person who has got the domicile or who is resided, who has expressed the intention to reside in such a place. So here the aspect of domicile plays an important role with regard to the establishing the relationship between the person and the state. It may be with regard to the succession, it may be with regard to the aspect of marriage and number of things. For example, here with regard to the Hindu Marriage Act, under section 1 subclass 2, it has been said that the act, that is Hindu Marriage Act, will be applicable to persons who has got the domicile in India but normally resides outside India. Now you can see how the concept of domicile plays a vital role in the life of a person with regard to the marriage. No doubt, the person he resides outside India. Here, the application of law extends outside India and he has got the domicile in India. He has been domiciled in India. So this is very much important. Likewise, with regard to the Indian Succession Act, when it is the matter of will or testamentary succession. So, with regard to the matters of wills and testamentary succession, the concept of domicile plays a vital role. So, for example, if a foreigner, he before his death, he gets a domicile from India. He has applied for the domicile and he has complied all the requirements under Indian Succession Act of 1925. And here he has given his legal declaration. He has kept that legal declaration. He has administered that legal declaration before the register of domicile. And he has got a considerable period of residence. At least it has been prescribed that he should have at least 1 year prior to applying to this domicile certificate. So on the basis of that one, before his death, if any foreigner he has got the domicile from India, so here he has got certain movable property in India. Here what happens? The law of India will be applicable with regard to those movable property. But what about the immovable property? Means if the immovable property is there in India, no problem. If he has got the immovable property in his mother country, so probably here he may be national of that country. He might be having nationality of that country. So there, if he is having the immovable property, for example, he is having the immovable property in England. So there, with regard to the immovable property, the law of the England will be applicable there. So this has been said under the section 5 of the Indian Succession Act. So this will come under the private international law with regard to the movable and immovable property. So with regard to the persons who are in India, so with regard to the will and testamentary succession, who comes under the the purview of the Indian Succession Act, there the concept of domicile it plays a vital role by fixing the relationship between the state and the person with regard to the application of the law, with regard to the application of the Indian Succession Act. So this aspect we have to know. So for this aspect, the domicile, what are all the things we have to study under Indian Succession Act means we have to study what will constitute, which are all the essential aspects to constitute domicile, and which are all the kinds of the domicile. So here with regard to the domicile, there are the kinds of, that is instead of kinds I may say instead of domicile, the kinds of domicile, I may say the mode of acquiring the domicile. There are three kinds of domicile is there. That is the domicile of origin, or it may be called as domicile by birth, so which can be dealt under the section 6 to 8, and next one is domicile by choice, that will be dealt under section 9 to 13 of Indian Succession Act, and the last one is domicile by operation of law, which will be dealt under section 14 to 18. So these are all the modes of acquiring the domicile, but there will be only one domicile will be applicable for a person. There will be only one domicile will be applicable. So here certain times how this domicile plays a vital role means I am stressing with regard to the vital role. Even the matter of nationality, it does not play a vital role with regard to the application of the law, whereas this concept of a domicile plays a vital role in the life of a person in fixing the relationship between the law and the application of the law with a person with regard to the number of aspects. It may be the testamentary succession, it may be marriage, it may be so many things. So in this video, we have to discuss with regard to the concept of domicile, and we have to see the different modes of acquiring the domicile. Here, let us go to the concept of domicile. Here, the term domicile is not defined in the Act. So in the Indian Succession Act, this the term domicile has not been defined. The domicile of a person is the place where he has his true fixed permanent home, therefore essential to constitute domicile. Here, what we have to see, here there are two things it should be there. That is one, residence, and there should be intention of making it a home of the party. That means simply residing in one place. Suppose a person resides in some foreign country or some other place. Suppose they don't have the intention to get the domicile of that country. Then, if the person does not have the intention to be his last residence, then we cannot call that that person has acquired the domicile. So that aspect we have to see. But in fact, this Indian Succession Act, it has not defined with regard to the concept of domicile. So from the reading of the other sections under the Indian Succession Act, we have to make the characteristics, we have to judge what is domicile. That means here it follows that, therefore that domiciles may be acquired by residence, but residence at a place does not necessarily make it place of domicile in as much as mere residence without any intention of making it the permanent home would not be sufficient. So this aspect I have told you. And this domicile thus means the country which is taken to be a man's permanent home for the purpose of determining his civil status. So here, to determine the civil status, this domicile plays the important role with regard to the determining his permanent home. So it is thus it is to be distinguished from allegiance which determines a person's political status as regards the duration of the residence. No hard and fast rule has been laid down by the courts. So it differs from the concept of the allegiance. That means if one person he has got the allegiance to any what you call a country, allegiance is different and domicile is different. So there is no hard and fast rule. So the courts with regard to the matter of domicile, it has not made a strict compartment rules, but depending upon the factors, the facts of the cases, the courts will give the ruling with regard to the concept of domicile, whether the person has got the intention to reside in a certain state or not. So here one more thing with regard to the importance of the domicile, this can be taken in the light of the private international law. Here Indian Succession Act, it has also said with regard to the private international law under section 5 of the Indian Succession Act. Here the importance of the domicile in the law of succession is due to the rule of private international law that while rights over immovable properties are governed by the law of that country. So here which are all the rules will be applicable with regard to immovable property? Where the immovable property resides, so the rule of law of that country will be applicable with regard to those immovable properties where such properties are situated, and succession to movable is governed by the law of the country where the person had his domicile at the time of his death. So this aspect I have told you, and with examples I have told you. That means before his death, if he acquires the domicile of Indian country, here the application of law will be applicable to the aspects of the movable property. So this is the universal rule adopted in the section 5 of the Indian Succession Act. Here there are different modes of acquiring the domicile. One is the domicile by origin, domicile by choice, domicile by operation of law. So this domicile by origin means where the person gets birth. So that will be a common thing. It is very easier thing to follow. Here what happens is a domicile of origin is a legal tie which binds a person at the moment of his birth to a given system of law. That is, if a person gets birth in a particular country, he gets the domicile of that country automatically, and it is settled principle of law that no man can be without a domicile. And we can say that the common law, what you call the impression is that there will not be a person without domicile, and the law attributes a domicile to every child as soon as he is born. The domicile which a person acquires at the time of his birth is known as his domicile of origin or by domicile by birth. So here even this domicile can be it can be applied even to a child. That means a newborn child also will have the status of domicile of his father if it is a legitimate child. If it is a illegitimate child, it will have the domicile of his mother. Or if it is a posthumous child, it will have the domicile of his mother. So this even the child will have the domicile aspect. So this there will not be a person without domicile. Here the domicile of origin of a child depends on whether such child is born legitimate or illegitimate or posthumous. And this aspect with regard to legitimacy, the domicile of origin of a legitimate child is in the country in which his father was domiciled at the time of his birth. So it is very common. That means with regard to the legitimate child, there is no problem at all. So the domicile of that child will be determined on the domicile of his father. And with regard to legitimate child, as I told you, it will be decided on the domicile of his mother. And with regard to posthumous child also, it will be determined on the basis of the mother only. And next aspect is domicile of choice. So this is also very much important. Who can acquire the domicile? Here, how this domicile of choice can be determined. So, which are all the factors we have to see here? Here, there's the factors are which are acquired to which is required to call it as a domicile of a choice is that the intention of residing there permanently and indefinitely. That means there are here with regard to this aspect under section 10 of the Indian Succession Act, there is a recital is there with regard to the acquiring the new domicile. But here, what we have to see with regard to domicile of choice, certain category of persons, even though they reside for a considerable length of time in any foreign country or in Indian country, on their certain status. Suppose a ambassador of foreign country resides in India for considerable length of time. Suppose a foreigner he resides. Suppose he resides on some mission in India. So being a airman or suppose a foreigner who comes to India to give the training to the Indian soldiers, he may be a foreign captain, or he may be of some military rank from some other country. Here, even though he resides in India for a considerable length of time, he doesn't, the law does not presume that he acquires the domicile of choice. Here, the law it has to see certain factors for awarding the domicile by choice. Here, domicile of choice is the domicile which a person of full age or sound mind acquires by voluntary choice. The person acquires a domicile of choice when he resides in a country with the intention of residing there permanently or indefinitely. And here under section 10, it has been given with regard to the how a person can acquire the domicile of choice. A man acquires a new domicile by taking up his fixed habitation in a country which is not that of his domicile of origin. However, a man is to be deemed to have taken up his fixed habitation in India merely by reason of his residing there. So, in the civil, military, naval or air force service of government in the excess of any profession or calling. So, here he has to submit to before the certain the authority who has been in charge of awarding the domicile certificate. There is some procedure for acquiring domicile is there. He has to give the legal declaration, and this legal declaration has to be kept in deposit before the domicile registrar, and he should be in India for at least period of 1 year before he is applying for this domicile of choice. So this aspect we can see under this concept of domicile. And here there are certain aspect has been given with regard to the by special mode. Here any person may acquire a domicile in India by making a deposition in the appropriate office in India, a declaration in writing under the hand of his desire to acquire such domicile. However, a person should have been a resident of India for 1 year immediately preceding at the time of his making such declaration. So this aspect I have told you. So here he has to get the domicile certificate. So here yes, this is the procedure. So special mode means this is the procedure how a domicile can be taken under the domicile of choice. So this aspect we can see under section 10. That means if it here this domicile of choice just residing in the capacity of an ambassador, civil, military, naval or air force or service of government, he cannot get the residence by choice. So for that there is a special procedure is there, special mode is there with regard to the getting the domicile by choice. Here, but a person who is appointed by the government of one country to be ambassador, consul or other representative in another country does not acquire a domicile in the latter country by reason of only of residing there in pursuance of his the appointment. So here we have to see. So this aspect has been discussed. That means here just because he resides in India in some certain capacity, even he may be ambassador to India, he does not acquire the domicile by choice, nor does not have any other person acquire such domicile by reason only of residing with that person as part of his family or as a servant. Even a person who is who comes to India as a servant of some person or a part of a family of some person, they will not get the what you call the domicile of India. Probably you may see now there are a lot of what you call legal battles are going on with regard to the acquiring the citizenship in India. With regard to the number of rules we are going to see. So here, with regard to the application of law, with regard to the making the holding the relationship between the person and the state, these concepts are very much plays the very important role. It may be the citizenship, it may be domicile, and certain matters there is a comparable difference between the nationality and domicile. So here with regard to nationality and domicile, there are a number of differences are there. So here with regard to the nationality, what here the person who gets the nationality by what you call by birth, by the marriage, whereas with regard to the domicile, here the person who gets the domicile by the his choice and by the legal declaration by the origin or by birth. So there are certain differences are there with regard to the acquiring the domicile and the nationality. Here certain times this nationality and domicile, they are not we don't find much difference. If a person gets birth in India, he normally gets the nationality as well as the domicile. So here which law will be applicable with regard to the person who gets the domicile? Here which law will be applicable to the person who is having the nationality? So certain times a foreign national, he resides in India, he gets the domicile India, then the application of law is very much important. Here the rule of law will be very much important. Here the application of law is if the foreigner he gets the domicile in India, here the Indian law will be applicable normally to such a person. So there are a number of differences, the distinctions are there between the nationality and the domicile. As I have told you, even though the nationality to such an extent, it will not play such a what you call considerable role with regard to the application of the law. Here domicile, the concept of domicile, which plays a considerable what you call the role with regard to the application of the law. So next aspect is the other mode of acquiring the domicile is by domicile by operation of law. So this has been dealt under section 14 to 18. So how this by operation of law a person gets the his domicile will be changed. So with regard to the woman, minor, and with regard to the lunatics, all those things. Here domicile by operation of law, domicile of dependents means the domicile of the dependent persons whose domicile is dependent on the and changes with the domicile of some other person. Here domicile by operation of law or domicile of dependent means the domicile of the dependent person. That means here what we have to see, this will be domicile by operation of law will deal with regard to the domicile with regard to the dependent persons. So here the three categories of persons whose domicile is ascertained in this manner under the Indian Succession Act are minors, married women, and the insane persons. Here with regard to minors, a minor cannot acquire a new domicile, but his domicile follows the domicile of his parent from whom he derived his domicile of his origin. We have seen this one with regard to legitimate children, illegitimate children, posthumous children. Here, however, the minor's domicile does not change with that of parent on the following three cases. That means here in this suppose a minor he has got the domicile of his father, but if this father has holds any government office or employment in some other country, or he has got married, if he has married to some woman in foreign country, suppose if he changes his domicile, which will have the replica or effect on the the status of this minor person means it does not have the effect on this minor person, only with regard to the purpose of his identity, that when his father domicile, when he gets birth, it will be of where his father has got the domicile. So that will be the domicile of a minor person, but it will not change with regard to the aspects of his marriage, his father's marriage, and then government office, change of government office or employment, or setting himself up in a distinct business with the consent of his parent. So here this is the aspect. That means if this aspect of the setting himself as a distinct business, that means here this aspect also will not change the status of a minor. With regard to the married woman, with regard to the married woman, normally that will be the married woman, she will have the domicile of her husband. But when she gets separated, when she has given, when her husband is undergoing a sentence of transportation, then she can get the domicile of her choice. That means she can domicile of her own. Instead of choice, I can say that woman whose husband is undergoing a sentence of transportation. That means transportation means he is under the aspects of the clutches of the law. He is facing the sentence. He is under the he is undergoing the sentence with regard to the some guilty aspect, some determining the his accusations on the person. So with regard to the sentence of transportation. So here one more thing is that when she gets separated to the sentence of competent court, that means when divorce has been given, so at that time also the married woman, she can have her domicile of her own. So when she is a minor, the domicile of her father will be there. When she is married, she has got the domicile of her husband. But when she gets separated from husband, she can have her own domicile. And with regard to the insane person, so which law will be applicable means an insane person like a minor cannot acquire a new domicile except by following the domicile of another person under whose care he is. Thus, if the lunatic is a minor, his domicile will change with that of his parent. If she is a married woman, with that of her husband. So this is also very much important with regard to the aspect of insane person. Insane person is who is not sane. So here when he is a minor, he cannot acquire a new domicile. So here we have to see that here he cannot only when he is under the care of some person, then the matter of domicile, it may matters. So in case of a minor, his domicile will change with the domicile of his parent. If she is married woman, with that of her husband, the domicile will change. So here we have seen in today's class, we have seen what is meant by domicile, what is the importance of the domicile. So here we have seen a number of aspects. So here we have seen the domicile from the context of the Indian Succession Act concerning to the testamentary succession, and with regard to the private international law under section 5 also we have seen, and with regard to section 6 there will be a single domicile. That aspect also we have discussed, and we have discussed with regard to the modes of the domicile. And here with regard to the acquiring the domicile by choice also we have discussed the mode of the procedure for acquiring the domicile also. So this is very much important from the examination point of view.